Oh, scary. Okay, cool. So recording there, and can we see you? I mean, you guys all have your videos on, so that's fine. But yeah, again, if you didn't want to be on the recording, you can take off your video or tell me to stop recording. Just very quickly, Zoom stuff. If you can't see people when I've got slides up and you want to see them, then you can click these buttons to figure out to see the people. And oops. There's also like the side-by-side mode. I'm not sure if that's still a thing. This was an old screenshot of old Zoom. It might have changed now. And reactions we've all used already. Muting yourself unless you're talking is just general good practice on Zoom. And you might want to take notes because notes are fun. And we're going to talk about really awesome shit today. So I'm sure there will be notes. This is going to be interactive. So I say put your phone on D&D and close your web browser, but I doubt you're going to have time to do it, to use it anyway. So let's kick off with, what does ethical marketing mean to you? I don't know if you guys got my email, but I asked you to think about this a little bit. And if you go on your phone or on your computer and visit slido.com and enter the code 0160. So I'll just put this in the chat with the code. And maybe actually what I'll do is I'll show it to you. So when you go to slido.com, you can put in your code up here and it should, open up this, and then you can type in words. And what this is going to do is create a little word cloud for us and show us what everyone is thinking when it comes to what ethical marketing means to you. So I'm going to also figure out how to display that.
There is a words limit, right?
Sorry?
So there is a length limit, sorry.
I don't think so. Have you come up against a length limit or?
Yes.
Oh,
right.
no. Maybe we'll try and do like words because it's going to create like a cloud of like words. So try and do like individual words of what ethical marketing means. And you can also maybe use this as a place to put in things that you'd like to talk about today, things that you think would be interesting discussion points. Let me see if I can figure out how to display this. So I apologize, this is actually the first time I'm actually using this word cloud thing. Oh, there they are. They're appearing here. Don't know if I can make this full screen.
So for me, for some reason, the chat thing, it doesn't come up. So I can't really like follow the link and click on anything. I'm like, where's my chat? It's not working.
Oh, no. Can you see the chat option in the bottom of your Zoom?
Yeah, I can see, but when I click on it, nothing happens. So I'm just that confused. And I have used Zoom before, so I'm not like
maybe if I stop the share, it'll appear.
Yeah. Now it worked for some reason.
Yeah, it's probably just hiding it because it's like showing you my screen because Zoom. I'll keep that in mind, so I'll stop sharing if I ever need you to see the chat. So we've got outbound, people-centric, value add. Oh, my dad used to love the term value add. He used to use it to us all the time as kids. Like, what's your value add? What's your value add? Okay, I'll give you another minute to type in words that you want to associate with ethical marketing, or that you want to talk about, or that you think is interesting to do with ethical marketing. And then we'll take a look at it. Hopefully I won't accidentally reset the results while I'm trying to display it. Okay, so what's super interesting here is, I'm just going to share screen again. is that everyone has chosen different words. So our word cloud's not looking, oh, actually, no, there's one has gotten 2 votes, which is authenticity, and now it's gigantic. But yeah, but I think that's a super interesting thing in itself, that that there's so many different things to talk about when it comes to ethical marketing, that it's not even like one thing that most people are centered on when it comes to ethical marketing, which is why it's like such a great discussion topic, isn't it? So authenticity, I think, is a great kind of catch-all term for things to do with marketing, making it ethical, right? Is there anything there that jumps out at you? Can you guys see this, by the way? See the word? Is there anything that jumps out that anyone wants to comment on, or say, you know, that sounds really interesting to them that they maybe didn't put on there? Feel free to just unmute yourself and say.
Personally, I'm a bit curious about outbound because I'm a bit struggling with the association, but
Outbound.
yes.
Yeah, okay. Does anyone want to comment on what outbound might mean when it comes to ethical marketing?
I wrote it down, so I can say why I wrote it down. I'm actually in the process of reorganizing and relaunching my business. And one of the things that is very, very important to me specifically is to market myself in a way in which I contact prospective clients who have never heard of me before. And that's basically what's outbound marketing is. And I'm trying to find the sweet spot where I can actually do outbound marketing as in reach out to prospective clients who've never heard of me before in an ethical way. So the timing of this meeting is just right.
Thanks.
Brilliant. And actually, that's really funny, because one of the things I wanted to do today was talk about something that's actually quite well associated with that. So yay for synchronicity. Anything else anyone wants to, that jumps out at them?
I think I was just gonna quickly pitch in that I think some of them, while they may not be the exact same word, but I, for example, put topical, and then the topical in the way I meant it kind of like really relates to social awareness for me, because I kind of like meant like topical in the way of like not tone deaf. So like kind of really in tone, really like aware of social circumstances, political circumstances, generally like circumstances. So I think some of these, like for example, the topical, the way I meant it, definitely like kind of relates a lot to people-centric or social awareness, that you kind of like bring that all together and you are really aware of what's going on.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Does whoever put social awareness want to comment on that too?
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, no, I think exactly the same. I think some of the words that are there kind of live in harmony in the same house effectively, you know, all holding hands. So I think with social awareness, I think that maybe is at the core of ethical marketing. You know, I don't think it is the only thing that's there. I think it may be one of the pillars that hold up ethical marketing. I don't think that, you know, as an example, you know, I remember Pepsi had put out a campaign, and I think it was like Kylie Jenner. And you know, I'm not saying whether she's a great person or a terrible person or anything like that, but they had used Kylie Jenner, and she was in the midst of a riot. And this was happening around the times where people were, you know, BLM was like really loud, and, you know, they were doing things like that. And all it took was Kylie Jenner to open a can of Pepsi to stop racism. And it just wasn't socially aware, you know, and I do think sometimes with the lack of social awareness, I don't know if it's used sometimes as the marketing campaign itself, because it's going to get a lot of backlash, and, you know, as they say, and there's no such thing as bad press. So I don't know if the socially aware thing is something that they pretend not to have with a view of getting quite a lot of traction. But yeah, I do think that the social awareness covers the topical, it covers the impact as well, the value add. I would assume that they all kind of live in the same house. So yeah.
I've got such a great example of that, that thing you're just saying about whether the social awareness, they're using it as a really unethical way of getting attention is that the Snickers ads, you know, the ones that are like, you're not you when you're hungry. And there's one that went out in Spain where it was this super effeminate like man with long hair, and he's like, I'm ordering a drink with vitamin A, B, C, and D, and then they gave him a Snickers, and then he became this like manly guy with a beard, and it got a super big backlash because they're like, it's homophobic, and I commented on the article saying it was actually femphobic, which is like a massive thing in the LGBT community about gay men being really femphobic, about men who are effeminate, and so many people on that comment thread were saying, oh well, it's getting everyone talking, the marketing team know what they're doing. I'm like, no, we shouldn't accept this as good marketing. What? So yes, completely agree with that one. Cool, that's amazing, and I love this discussion. Let's move on to the next thing that I really wanted to do. Oh wait, actually I should share my slides again. So I had this sort of plan of what I want to do, but after this very brief discussion around the word cloud, I'm realizing that this is probably going to go to hell, and we're going to just discuss things that we actually want to discuss. But the main point I want you to take from this slide about what we'll be talking about is that you might end up with more questions than answers, because that's what usually happens when I end up talking about ethical marketing. So I hope you're not here to get answers on how to do ethical marketing, because I've realized there's a lot more questions than there are answers. I've also realized that I'm not a philosopher, so I've not studied philosophy, and I'm also still learning. So don't take my opinion as gospel or anything. The kind of core thing I think about ethical marketing as a term is that people consider it like a marketing strategy, and it's kind of like, how do we show our ethics to use that as a marketing strategy? And I'm like, no. This isn't what I want to talk about, and this is what I hope you guys don't want to talk about, is not using like the way we're ethical as a way to market yourself, but rather how to market yourself in an ethical way. So I just want to make sure that distinction is clear before we go into further discussion. Now, this was a definition of what ethics means that I found on the BBC, like has this ethics section or something, and I like it. I like this definition. I would like you to take a look at this definition and just spend like a minute thinking about it first, just in silence, just allow us to have a little time to process. And then what I'm going to do is put us into smaller breakout rooms so that we can discuss in pairs, and then we'll come back as a group and discuss anything that came up. Is that okay? Cool, so we'll have a minute, and while we're having that minute, I'm going to create breakout rooms. And you might want to write it down because you won't be able to see it in the breakout room. So when you're discussing it, you might want to write it down.
How much time will we have in the breakout?
That is a very good question. Let's say 5 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
There'll be a little timer in there showing you how long it will be, how long you've got left, so you can pay attention to that at the top. Okay, so if we're ready, I'm going to open up the rooms and we'll have a little personal chat, and then we'll come back and have a group chat. Okay, ready, go. You should be able to join the rooms now.
I was in there on my own for a while. I was like, oh, I was like, that's not going to be a good chat, is it? I think you're now muted. I can't hear you. Still can't hear you. That's so strange. Why? I can try to lip read. That wouldn't be like a good exercise for like 4 minutes. That's bizarre because when you were presenting, I don't know if it's anything to do with presenting, but still. No. No. Oh, no, I can hear
Now
something.
you can hear me, yes.
Yes.
With Zoom changing my microphone for no reason. Okay, cool. What do you have to say? What do you think about it?
I think it's really interesting. I like how they talk about like the sort of whoever said it. They talk about like moral principles and like the good for individual and society. But what instantly came to my mind is the fact that it's going to be so different depending on where you apply it to. And I mean, like culturally and like socially, depending, even it doesn't even need to be like super different cultures. I'm sure like even within the same culture, if you're talking about different, I don't know, like social classes or people from different backgrounds or different education, it could vary and could change so much. So I think that what's first stuck out to me, while it's so far like a very, you think that it's a salmon sort of description that could cover a lot, it still like needs so much more like branching out in the sense of talking about different cultures or like, yeah, that's what the first thing that stuck out to me.
Yeah, so like I guess because ethics is such a branching topic anyway, right? It's kind of hard to create a definition that's just a line in it, right?
Yeah.
I think what I love about this definition is that it says what is good for individuals and society, and it's like, so it's like those two separate things are actually kind of like you can think of them almost as opposites.
Yeah.
You know, individual and society are kind of like opposite things, and so so it's interesting for me. It's like ethics is that tension between what is good for both those things, and you're trying to balance those two things. And I think the society aspect comes into what you're saying about like the different, like what society are you talking about? Are you talking about a community? Are you talking about the country you're in? Are you talking about, you know, the religion you practice? Like, I think these all come under society, right?
Yeah. And I think there's so many like contentious topics they could talk about. But like, for example, now the first thing that sprung to my mind, apart from the examples that you guys gave with Pepsi, that was obviously like an absolute flop, like an epic one, or like the Snickers one that I actually haven't heard about before. But like now all the vaccine stuff, like the way the government like markets it, and I kind of like get their agenda because that's what like they meant to do. They're kind of like responsible for us, but equally how they filter out any sort of like opposite opinions. And then like I'm sure every side would argue that it's ethical because it's our choice, right? And like every side would have such a different what's good for individual and what's good for society. There's such a massive clash between the two. So it's like, yeah, it's probably the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, okay, there's just so many moving parts in the whole shebang.
Yeah, and I guess the vaccine one is a really good example of like, well, who defines what's good? Like, who defines what's good for society? And like which society? And like, if you're not a part of that society, do you still have to do what's good for that society? Like, you know, like
because then like you could equally argue that that's an like, okay, the scientists might claim that it's good for society for you to vaccinate, but then certain individuals could claim that it's bad for them as individuals. So again, there's like completely two opposing poles, which is like just mind-boggling. I suppose the only interesting aspect here, which I do actually in the whole thing find unethical, is that they filter it. They just market, like the government pushes their own agenda, their own opinions, and they filter out any opposing opinions. And I'm like, that is not really ethical now, is it? If you don't allow people to post anything, whether it's in like well, not necessarily don't vaccinate, but even like do your research and like they'll ban it. And I'm like,
okay, we'll head back into the main room now. Let me just, so I think we can leave right now.
On you again, DJ.
Yeah, so Zoom likes to keep changing me back to the microphone that's not connected to my computer for some reason. Cool. So that was great discussion I had with Paula there. Does anyone have anything like incredible they talked about that they want to share with the group?
I don't know if we call it incredible. I don't know. But we definitely had a discussion. For the most part, we both agreed with the statement. We were in agreement. We said that, yeah, ethics are a system of beliefs that govern actions and behaviors. We then spoke about, I suppose, there being kind of like a macro ethics, and then there being micro ethics, and the disconnect between the two can cause some sort of, you know, conflict between different groups. There might be conflict between other pockets of society that might have, you know, certain ethics that actually are more exclusive and specific to cultures or ages, genders, so on and so forth. But for the most part, it is a true statement that does govern those belief systems of people. So yeah, we agree with that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think we talked about similar things. Anyone else want to share anything?
We challenge everything. It was a very good discussion. So we challenge the notion of what is good, meaning what is good for whom and based on what and based on which time, because we say like kind of the example of slavery, for example, kind of was socially accepted in the past, now it's no longer accepted. And Jenny put a very good point about, is it good enough or what is good, right? Do you have some aspiration within what is good? I think we also challenge the notion that it was only limited to individuals and society, and what is defined as society. Is it also like kind of wider society, like ecosystems, Earth ecosystems? So we look at the impact outside of just humans. And the last point I think we were discussing is like, what is interesting in the definition is that you don't have businesses. And now we kind of apply kind of an ethical marketing to a business. And this is not a stakeholder now within the definition. So that was a point that we highlight as well. I don't know if I missed something. Come to jump in as well.
Perfect summary of everything, Remy. Thanks.
Oh, that's so interesting. I've got like goosebumps because you're like bringing up things that I didn't really think of, which is fantastic. Like I really love the point that you've made that like ecology and beyond humans, like this definition doesn't really seem to include that. And where does business fit in that, I think is a really great key point. I think me and Paula talked about what you mentioned about what is society and what that means. Paula, do you want to share any of your thoughts on that?
So kind of like what instantly jumped out to me when I looked at the whole shebang is that so often it's very difficult to define society, what we're talking, because if you talk about different cultures or you talk about different like, you know, upbringings, different backgrounds, different classes, it's just society is far too of a wide sort of description to be able to say that, like, I don't know, if you think what's culturally acceptable in Catholic countries versus Muslim countries, or what is socially acceptable, or even like to market, for example, for people in like upper classes to working classes, and it's like very bitty. So I think like for me, what instantly jumped out, they should be thinking about so much more rather than individuals in society, because society is still such a massive aspect. So yeah, that was kind of like what we briefly touched on.
Yeah, I love all of this stuff. It's so good. The reason that I really like that definition is that it talks about what is good for individuals and society, and I mentioned this to Paula that like Paula, sorry, that the individuals in society are almost like diametric opposites, like the individual versus the larger amount. And I think for me, ethics often comes in tension. right? It's a tension between two things and a balance between two things. That's often where ethics ends up sitting. And but like you've said, the individuals in society doesn't really define enough for really to encompass everything to do with ethics. So I think there's a lot more to talk about when it comes to ethics. But why I wanted to bring up that tension point is, have you guys heard of this? Kate Raworth's donut economics. Has anyone heard of it? Do you want to wave and say you've heard of it? Cool. Remy, do you want to explain it? Okay.
I heard of it. I'm not an expert to explain it to someone else.
Sure. I mean, I'm not an expert either, but do you want to maybe explain your understanding of it?
Yeah, it's a concept of really like kind of working within the circle of the donut, where you kind of have enough to thrive, but not too much to kind of impact on the ecosystem around you. So that's the thin balance, which is represented by the inner green circle. And then if you are below that, you kind of, there is a lack of things. So you kind of have maybe some issues, some tension, social tension, or environmental tension. And then if you go beyond that, then you are depleting the resources and putting at risk your environment.
Bang on, exactly right. I don't think I could have said it better myself. And I think in the diagram itself, if you can see that there's these, I don't know if you can see my arrows, but these things on the outside are kind of the metrics that Kate Raworth is saying can be used to indicate that we've gone beyond that ecological ceiling and we're overshooting, as it says in this arrow. And the ones on the inside are the metrics that she says we can use to show that we're falling short on keeping our social foundation up and keeping our society thriving, right? And this is the comforting space in the middle. And this concept is like in a lot of science. I mean, like the Earth itself is in this kind of perfect little balanced place in our solar system for life to exist. And there's lots of different places in science where that happens. So I love this model that she has, because I think it is a very natural model. But like if we relate it to that definition that I was just saying, the tension between individual and society, we could also see like ethics being in this kind of thing. This is I think where she's shown where we're going over and where we've not quantified things properly. And so Kate Raworth has like really extended this a long way. If you're interested, definitely look her up. She did a TED talk on this. But I took her concept of that donut and I created like an ethical donut. And I think she actually has an ethical donut. I haven't actually looked it up, but I created this when I was watching it and thinking about it, and thinking that in a business, you have these two things that you've got tension between. You've got a growth ceiling where it's like where when you grow beyond that, you're now damaging or exploiting society. And you've got a business viability inner circle where like if you fall short of that, your business is no longer viable. It's gonna break down, right? And so I think there's a real space in between that where businesses thrive, and I think capitalism allows us to go way beyond that growth ceiling without thinking about the damage. So as with Kate Raworth's one though, we need to have metrics on the inside and the outside, right? And that's where I get stuck. I'm like, what are these metrics? And I think they can be very individual. So what I want us to do now is I'm going to send you this link in a second. I'm just going to show it to you first. So this is what they call a Jamboard. Is anyone familiar with a Jamboard? No. So a Jamboard is like, it's kind of like a flip chart in a real world setting, but digital. So when you come on here, I'll send you this link in a second. Oh, actually, I've got to make sure that you guys can all actually use it once I do that. But once you're on here, you can click on this sticky note button. And then if you use blue for the inside ones and pink for the outside ones, then you can write things. So like, so maybe damage to exploitation in society might be like, you know, bad supplier or something. I don't know. That's a bad example. I'm just doing that so you can see that the post-it note, and then you can drag it and move it around. And if you want to put some blue notes on the inside, pink notes on the outside, we'll spend like 5 minutes doing this quietly together. Oh, actually, no. okay, what do you guys want to do? Would you rather go into pairs and then put in stuff on here and then come back and discuss, or do it quietly and then we all discuss? Maybe put the little thumb if you want to do it quietly, do the little clap if you want to do it in pairs. So we've got 2 for pairs, 3 for pairs. Okay, I think that means we're doing it in pairs. Okay, cool. So I will put us in breakout rooms. Oh, well, I actually have to send you the link first. That might be helpful.
Just a question on my side,
yes.
to be clear on exactly what we put on the diagram. Is it, so here we look at for the ethical marketing or for the ethical more kind of business? What is your kind of idea?
I was thinking ethical business, but if you want to go more, I feel like ethical marketing is like within ethical business, isn't it? So I think ethical business gives us enough room to come up with wider things. But if you can think of things that are more specific to marketing itself, then that will be better, I guess. But I think practicing your business ethically is kind of automatically going to create more ethical marketing, right? Because if you're using those metrics to measure your business, then you can use that in your marketing to make sure that you're doing things correctly, if that makes sense. Is that clear or is that unclear?
It's clear. Thank you.
Cool. So has everyone managed to open up the Jamboard and able to access it, able to add sticky notes? Great. Just shout if you are unable to. If not, I'm going to put us, let's recreate the room so that we're with someone new this time. Oh, no, wait, hang on. I need to.
DJ, it says view only. I don't think I can edit it.
Thank you. I will change that right
Same
now.
for me, DJ.
Sorry?
Same for me.
Yeah, I've changed it now. So if you refresh your page, you should be able to edit it now. Okay, cool. I think we'll do this in little groups of 3 because that might be nice. No, actually, no, let's do it in pairs. I just pressed the wrong button, so I was going to be lazy. Okay, let's do it. So we'll give 5 minutes again. Yep, cool. Here we go.
Hey, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Zoom likes to change my microphone. Yeah. Why?
It's great because I had a question and I get with you, so it's perfect. I'm assisted by the master of the plan. So it's but I really like the concept that you, turn this donut for the business. I kind of like the approach. Very interesting. I don't know if you saw it, but I had a big thumbs up when I saw the slide.
I did. It made me feel good.
It was really good. Okay, so let's correct. I'm sure you have a lot of ideas already, right? Because you thought this through.
You'd think. Okay, so shall we start with the outside one, which is easier because we all know things that are damaging and exploitative, right?
But now just thinking because you ask us to look outside or in both sense, kind of inside, completely inside the donut, outside. But would have been also interesting to look at what components make the sweet spots between not good and not good, right? So could be another exercise to do.
So as in like 2 that sit on both sides, you mean?
Yeah, because now we look at either something which is a business failure or something which is damaging society, but we don't look at kind of what the sweet spot should be so that the business is thriving. So how to just stay on the green line.
Well, so I think they would feed into each other. So let's maybe come up with one and then we'll see how that then comes up with the sweet spot. So, actually maybe business failure is really easy. It's like no profit, right?
Yes.
Is a business failure one. And then if we say that, we could then look at the opposite of that. What's the growth ceiling for that? Where it might be
But it's like profits only for shareholders, right? So overly focusing on the shareholders, and
Yes. So how do we phrase that? So
by excessive shareholder focus.
yeah, excessive shareholder gain.
Yes, exactly. Even better.
Which I guess is like, so then you see the sweet spot, right, is balancing shareholder gain and
Yes.
employee gain, or society gain.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense now. Maybe you should have an example to illustrate.
Maybe I'll put a yellow one as like balance shareholder gain and employee / society gain. And that goes in the middle. Huzzah.
But you can, because shareholder is usually associated with a kind of the singular view to businesses, but here you can put with looking at all stakeholders. So it's kind of inclusive stakeholder, and because then you have kind of everyone is gaining, not just shareholders, but employees, society. So I mean, this is a bit of a wider view, but in the sense that your profit should not be too low that you don't make money, so your business is failing. They should not be too high that some shareholder gain too much, but you should have a sweet spot where your shareholder kind of get a return on what they invest, but then instead of this getting directly to the rest, getting to their pocket, this goes into the better wages for the employees, and then maybe reinvestment towards society and environment.
Yeah. I guess it's like the B Corp thing about being balancing profit with people and planet, right?
So,
so I've added inclusive stakeholders into that yellow one.
So we put
we've got like 15 seconds. So
we finished. Okay,
maybe 5 minutes wasn't long enough.
Yeah, because they don't seem to have put any other sticky. So
yeah, well, there's some lack of customers, not hearing, understanding key audience. Okay, cool. Let's go back.
See you.
Hello, welcome back.
Hi.
So me and Remy were chatting about trying to use the two to then find a balance in between. It looks like some of you guys may have done that. So is there anything, I mean, obviously you guys can see it, so you can read them yourself, but is there anything that you guys wrote on there that you'd like to explain a bit more to the group that you thought was really insightful that you guys talked about?
Me and Ryan spent the first 2 minutes saying that we're just very confused.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Paolo, you weren't meant to tell them that. That was meant to be last week.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, it's good to know. Maybe I needed to be clearer. Maybe I need to explain it a bit more beforehand. But you guys did get some stuff put on there, did you?
Yeah, I think we kind of like looked at your example, and the way I understood personally, and I kind of like tried to get Ryan's input to see whether I'm in the right place, is the way that inside, so in the blueies, it's going to be when we're kind of like underusing resources. And in that regard, we talked about, so not having a key audience, but like underusing them as a resource to even listen to what they need, what they want, and just like go out and market something, being like, oh yeah, like we don't, like, look, it's a pen and we don't care that you need like a pencil, we're still marketing like a pen for you. Sort of like, that was a bad example. You kind of get the gist. And then in the red end of the spectrum, we were like making your product so niche and so targeted to that specific audience, they kind of like lose out the bigger picture, that you'd be like, oh, this pen is red and it's a ball pen and it writes in pink color and it's like covered in glitter, that you're like, okay, one person will be interested in that. And then sort of like in the middle, would be that sort of like understanding and really hearing and really being able to tune into what your audience wants, what they need, and like listening and properly like adjusting your actions to it.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I think the bit on the outside, what would a really good example I think of that might be where people target really wealthy people a lot of the time, and then they're not serving like kind of the wider society, and they're serving this niche audience so much, but that's creating like damage to the rest of society, and they're not balancing that. I think that's a really good example of that. Yeah, that's really good. And I love how you guys have really tied that into marketing there, where the one we discussed was a bit more general business related to do with stakeholders, shareholders and profit and that sort of thing, which is still important. Janie and Yuval, did you have anything you wanted to share?
I can personally say Janie was right on top of things. I was confused as hell as well. I was trying to understand. I went for the easiest thing ever, which is lack of customers, which basically means that you don't know how to market yourself, or you don't listen to your clients, or you don't know who your target audience is, so on and so forth. But yeah, it was a good practice, but I think it was a bit confusing, at least to me. Yeah, I think it might be one of those things that needs a bit of time to really marinate in your head to do right. But like what I'm hoping that you got from it is like at least an idea that might start triggering thoughts that you might have later, and then you might come to a future ethical marketing discussion and be able to contribute really well. Hint, hint. Cool. So I'm aware we've got 10 minutes left, but I really wanted to bring up one because Yuval, you were talking about outbound, and I think this quote from Abraham Lincoln, I think is really interesting when it comes to ethical marketing, where he says that a man's character is like a tree, and his reputation is like the shadow, right? And the shadow is what we think of it. The tree is the real thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Plato's allegory of the cave. It's a similar concept of like that there's a shadow on the wall, and people can only see the shadow, and so we think that what we see the shadow, what we're seeing as the shadow on the wall is the real thing, but there is a real thing over there. And why do you guys think that I'm using this quote when it comes to ethical marketing? Can anyone think of what this might have to do with? I'm going to take a wild guess here and say that both the shadow and the real thing perhaps have to be the same thing when you're marketing more ethically, especially if you're marketing yourself and let's say your brand or your company. So basically it has to be the same thing, and you have to be authentic and to show both your character but your shadow as well.
Bang on. So in the allegory of the cave, the reason that Plato kind of used this allegory was he was kind of arrogant and was saying like, oh, the philosophers know all the real things, but the stupid people are all chained in the cave and can only see the shadows. So we as philosophers have to show them that which shadows are genuine, are showing the real thing, and teach them which, like, not to look at a shadow that's been distorted and think that that's real, right? And what where I think this comes into marketing is exactly what you're saying, Yuval, is that a lot of that kind of deception marketing comes in shaping the shadow, kind of contorting that shadow in a way so that the people seeing the shadow think it's a certain thing when it's not. And if we want to practice things ethically, we want to make sure we need to shape that shadow because that's what people can see, you know, the evidence of yourself, but you want to make sure that it's actually representative, right? So this is what I think is kind of character versus reputation, is a thing, is where I'm talking about tensions again, right? And I think there's a tension between the way you're perceived, your reputation, and who you actually are. So I'd love to like chat about this further, but I'm also like realizing that we're running out of time, and I don't really want to take up more of your time that is strictly necessary. So I think what's a more interesting exercise than necessarily chatting about what I just said, I only really wanted to chat about that because you've all had talked about outbound earlier, and I thought that was a great one to talk about. But there's a exercise that I read in something called Liberating Structures, I think it was, called 15% Solutions. And what 15% solutions are is that in most businesses and in most people's roles, you've got 15% is where you have the freedom and capacity to make a change or do a thing, right? And so what I'd love us to think about is kind of practically what can we do when it comes to marketing as a 15% solution, like in any role? What is that 15% that we can do to make marketing ethical? So I'd love for you to think about, I don't really know exactly where all of you are in terms of your businesses. I know some of you are managers, some of you are directors at least, and some of you are entirely your business. But what is the solutions that you could bring to your organization where you are to increase the ethics of your marketing? So if you want to spend just like a minute thinking about that, and then we can, if you want to share, then you can share it with us, something that you might go away with after this to apply to your business, but feel free to keep it private if you want to. Yuval, do you have a question?
Oh no, I have something to say, but I can wait. I just wanted to say that, I have something in mind.
Okay, great. We'll just give everyone a minute to think. Okay, shall we share anything? I'll stop the share so then we can see each other more clearly. So Yuval, did you want to share something that you're going to do?
I can. So as a one-woman show, it all starts and ends with me, meaning in order for me to market myself, I have to do that. And I've realized over the past few months that one thing that I absolutely have to take into consideration while running my business is allowing myself to have enough time to rest, which I'm really bad at, by the way. So my 15% solution is actually market less or be less present. But when I do, say more, or, I'll have the actual opportunity to be myself and to present myself in an ethical and more, in a truer way.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic example because that's something you're completely in control of, and something that you have the complete freedom and power to do, and really important when you're working for yourself to manage your energy and not necessarily your time. Does anyone else have anything that they came up with that they want to share?
Yeah, so obviously So I operate in two capacities. So within my grateful charity social enterprise, and I think that the core of being a charity is about being ethical anyway. It is about kind of being upfront with what your mission is. It is about letting people know, yes, look, this is what we're trying to do, and these are the people that we're trying to help. And I think that we actually do well in doing that. And I don't think it's very hard in doing that. But then I operate as a life coach outside of my grateful. And I think there is where in that space, there's quite a lot of room for life coaches, gurus, subject matter experts to do things more ethically. So I make a point of always saying to someone, look, if you're working with me as a life coach, it isn't about in 2 weeks, you're going to go from this to that. Because actually the journey's a lot longer than that. And actually, if anybody tells you that you're going to be, crawling today and flying by next week, it's a lie. It's not going to happen. This is not ethical. It's lies to get your money. It's just not how it works. And I see it happen quite a lot, whether it be in the financial space or whatever it is. You will see there will be Forex traders who will say, look, all you need to do is invest £500 and by next week, you're going to have £5 million. This is a lie, So I think at the core of it is just being real, like you say, is when you show up as who you are, the shadow and who you're showing up as should definitely align. So I think, yeah, it's something that I've kind of taken pride on in doing anyway, is managing expectations of what it is that you're promising people, basically. So I think that is one of the key things is managing expectations for those you're speaking to, but also expectations for yourself. And I think that is something that we haven't spoken about, which is internal ethical practices. And yeah, that'll be it for me.
Yeah, the whole other entire discussion is internal ethical practice. But yeah, I love the managing expectations. It's a really great 15% solution because it's something that can happen at any level of business as well. Like whether you're an executive or you're a manager or you're a director, managing expectations of the people you're dealing with is a super good 15% solution, I think.
I will echo what Ryan just said. I mean, I changed career and now I'm a kind of a business design coach. But I kind of like this metaphor of the shadow. And I mean, I really try to be kind of like straightforward, so you don't have result in no time, like Ryan just said. But I was playing a bit with kind of scarcity on my website, saying, okay, there is only like 3 spots for this stuff. And that's not the truth. I mean, there is space. I'm not like super under the water with like clients, but I really have only this space. So I think I can definitely kind of take that. There is no need to play around with these kind of tricks and be more straightforward and just like drop that stuff. And I think that's something small, but I would definitely do like in the next days.
Yeah, that's fantastic. My old boss always used to put this fake scarcity stuff and always made me put it on there for the webinars, and I hated it so much.
Funny, because I'd coached someone before and they used to do that on their website, and they would say, look, the thing is, they would say that there was like, the product was running out, we've only got a few left. And I just said to them, it's a digital product. It can't run out. Like it can't run out. So just be authentic. You don't need to say that it's going to run out. People know this and they're going to pick up on it. And people do loads of like psychological pricing things. And, if you price it at like 97, then maybe people would interact with it a bit more. And yeah, it just doesn't work anymore. So yeah, 100%, I'm with that.
I do want to say something for scarcity. I think scarcity is important, but there's definitely a way to do that ethically. I do definitely think that people exploit it way too much nowadays, and that should probably change sooner rather than later. But I'm definitely I'm hearing people saying, oh, we shouldn't use that, or that's at least how it feels to me. Use scarcity, it's fine, but do that in a real way. So
yeah, it's going back to that authenticity point, isn't it? It's just authentic scarcity is good. It's just when you have it as fake, like, oh, there's only like you're saying it's a digital product and you're saying there's only 100 of them. No. But you could have a workshop that you're saying we're only keeping it to 15 places because we want to make sure that everyone can speak. That's genuine scarcity, and that totally
or you could have like a flash sale and you can say it's going to be for 48 hours. That genuinely is true. So it's not like you're lying, and it really does create scarcity. So at that point, people know, okay, 48 hours, I need to go and get that product, whatever it is. But don't lie. people will know, and they'll just be like, I'm not going to spend no money with you at all.
And that's a big thing about lying is if you tell a small lie and they find out a small lie, they stop believing everything else that you're saying. So it's I mean, depending on your audience, right? It always depends on who you're marketing to. Some people just take lying as a part of the system, what they call ethical fading, right? But anyway, that's a whole other topic. And I've realized that I've already taken up an hour of your time. I don't think there was anything else major. I mean, I have some other like conclusions and stuff, but I don't necessarily need to go through them. Is there anything you guys are burning to share with everyone before I let you all go? Or do you guys want to stick around for a bit longer and hear the other things that I had to say? If anyone does want to, I'm happy to stick around for a bit.
I'm really sorry, I have to dash because I've got a meeting, like a physical meeting. How exciting.
Oh, wow.
In person. Oh, wow. Yeah, I know, crazy. But it was really great. So I'm just gonna dash out, but I'll be looking out for any like recording. I would love to like rewatch it again because I think there's some like really great stuff that came out of it. So if that's available, I'd love to see it.
Yes, I should put it up on my YouTube channel if I, get myself organized enough to do that.
Okay. Cool. Thank you so much, and thanks everyone for sharing your own like little stories and experiences.
Thank you for coming, Paula. Enjoy your in-person meeting.
No, I will. Bye.
So the rest of you want to stick around? Yes. Yes. It should be like just 5-10 more minutes. Let me. So I'm going to share with you this slide, but you don't have to read all of it now. I can share with you the slides afterwards. Let me just do this. But I wanted to share this. Oh, hang on, sorry. This thing, technology. Okay, so this is a bunch of principles of ethical marketing that I found from marketingschools.org. And I think they're interesting and could be hour-long discussions in all of them, I think. But I'd love you to read through these later. And let me know what you think. Send me an email if anything like really interesting comes up for you. But yeah, and check out marketingschools.org. It's got a thing on it. My biggest conclusion is that there is no real rule to anything. I think like we were saying before, like what is good? Who defines good? What is society? Which society are we talking about? I think ethics is often so dependent on so many factors that there isn't a single rule. I don't know why I put that there. My big conclusions that I have come up with so far in my journey is balancing that donut between your business survival and impact on society is kind of the big ethical dilemma I think that most business owners and business people in general face. Shaping the shadow, like we talked about, is kind of really important in marketing. It's kind of what we do in marketing, but it's only to ensure accuracy and not to contort it to satisfy desire. And I think that so I didn't actually talk about my own takeaways and what I do, what I'm going to do. But when I first started when I first created Rainbow Dragon Digital, and I was like, I want to do marketing and do it ethically and blah, blah, blah. I was like, how do I do this best? And I think the core thing that anyone can do is put personal values into business. I think I'm publishing a blog post, or I might have already published a blog post about business is always personal. Right, and if it's not personal, then I think it's unethical, right? I think there needs to be personal values embedded in what we do. Otherwise, there's maybe that's a bit absolutist, but I think it's very easy to slip into being unethical when it's not personal, right? But if your personal values are in your business, then it's really, really much more difficult to become unethical, because it starts to impact your own sense of morality rather than separating your business morality from your own morality. But those are, of course, my conclusions. And as I said, I'm still learning. So, but this is how I practice. Like, and this is the first thing I did when I created my business. So that was my hair a year ago. It was, I created these videos of my principles that I want to practice by, and I want to practice business by, and that I want to like find clients that are like in agreement with. And it's worked really well for me, because I think it's filtered out a lot of people that I don't want to work with and brought people that I do want to work with. So so far it's working for me. Yeah, and that was all I really wanted to share at the end. Thank you all so much for coming. It's been really great. I've got loads to run away with and think more about and expand this presentation a bit more. If you guys have any feedback, I'm welcome to it. You can email me later if it's horrible and you don't want to say it in front of everybody else. And if it's positive, say it in front of everybody else so I can bask in it. But yeah, thank you so much for coming and making this really a success. I would call it a success.
Thank you for organizing it. Thank you. That's great.
I mean, I'm sorry, it's just 1 hour. I could talk about this. Like, this could easily be a full day for me. So please do consider making this a full day panel or something.
Yeah, I think maybe, I honestly, genuinely, I've been considering it in terms of like, I think what I want to do is hold more of these 1 hour ones where I can like suck the information out of all of you and ideas out of all of you and like ways to make this better and things I haven't thought of, and then easily become a full day thing. So yeah, that's in the works.
I think it was really good. I think it was insightful. There's a couple of things that I hadn't come across before as well, and a couple of things that I had, but I think overall it was just really insightful. I definitely echo that point. I think it could be longer, and there could be kind of more time for open discussion. I think that is really fruitful. It's good to hear everyone else's opinions and their experiences, their thoughts, kind of what they're bringing to the table in essence. I think that's really good, and there's a lot to gain from that. But yeah, in conclusion, I've gained quite a bit from the short hour that we've had. So I think it's good. Great.
Brilliant. Thank you. Great. Okay. Well, it was great to see you all, and I hope you have a wonderful evening and a wonderful weekend.